time to take a coding break. Howdy, Coding Pros, and welcome to the Coding Break podcast. I am your medical coding coach as well as your medical coding instructor, Tam Talk, here to talk about all things related to the medical coding industry, which will include the good, the bad, and maybe some ugly. So let's get started. So one of the things that I do here on the Coding Break is I try to answer questions that were posed to me via my social media, direct messaging, or via email. So some questions may be repetitive questions, or they may have a twist to it. So let's get started. So the question it posed was AI, artificial intelligence. How does it impact the medical coding industry? Do you think that it will have a negative impact on the medical coding industry or healthcare? And where did I receive training? So let's get started. So for those of you who are new here, I took artificial intelligence or AI training via the AAPC. They were offering it several years ago, and I took the opportunity to take the course to learn more about, I guess, get the backstory of artificial intelligence. So with that, once you complete the sessions or the modules, you take your examination, and which deems you to be, I won't say certified, but credentialed or well knowledge in artificial intelligence. So throughout that process, I was sharing via my YouTube channel, what my thoughts were, what I'm learning, and what I thought or how I thought it was going to impact the medical coding industry. And so I have some pros as well as some cons. So my pros are, one, it is there to, or AI is implemented in the industry because it's going to increase productivity, which will allow the code, and by increasing the productivity, it will allow the coders to focus on more complex scenarios as it relates to the medical coding role. I.e. transition a medical coding into an auditing role, which, to be honest, if I'm honest with you, we're already in an auditing role. Coders are already in an auditing role. But when you add AI, you're pretty much auditing the outcome of AI. Like AI will, based on the data that it is in the medical record, AI will make some suggested codes, and we as coders, because we are human and because we've studied medical coding, we are to take our knowledge and our skill set and to audit to ensure that what the AI is suggesting are the appropriate codes, and if it's not correct, then we are to correct it, again, based on our knowledge and our skills. So yes, and let me pivot and say that for those of you who don't know, or you may have this perspective or perception of AI and artificial intelligence as it relates to, well, I'm going to go back, not even just with healthcare. AI in general is data driven, right? AI is data driven. So the results or the outcome of AI is based on data. And again, that data is input, or the data the data has been input by humans. So we as humans have input. Oh, that doesn't sound right. But we as humans, we input this data or certain information into these computer systems, right? And so what AI does, it reads the data that we have inputted. Is that a word? Anyway, deviating. The data is there. The AI is reading that, right? And so based on the data that we place into these systems, the AI is going to make an assumption, whether it be correct or incorrect. It's based on the data that we have placed into the computer system, and it's going to give a result. And so in the case of medical coding, it's giving a result as relates to code. So based on the data, so for example, if we go to our doctor or a healthcare provider, and based on like whether our demographics such as our ethnicity, address, age, family history, the examination, the diagnosis that was rendered to us during a specific encounter, the AI or the data, the AI, the algorithm is going to, that's pretty much what AI is going to pick up on that data or specific terms within that data and come up with a diagnosis or suggested code. Then we as coders are going to audit, which we should be auditing the record as well as the codes that were auto suggested by AI. And again, if that data is correct, then we're going to approve the codes that were suggested. If the codes are incorrect, it is up to us to make the correction before it goes out to the payer or the person who reimburses that particular healthcare entity or organization. So the pros of this is because AI is suggesting codes, yes, we have to review the record, but technically for me, and I'm speaking for myself, I am going to look for that information based upon that code that AI suggested. So for example, if AI suggested a colonoscopy, right? It's like a 45385, which is a snare polypectomy. I'm going to go through that record looking for the exact description or the procedure of the snare polypectomy. And if it is not there, I am going to code based on the documentation that is there to confirm that a specific colonoscopy was performed. So if AI is suggesting a snare polypectomy, again, that is CPT code 45385 was performed. However, I am seeing a colon biopsy, which is 45380. Me as a coder, I am going to change the code from 45385 to 45380. And same goes with our ICD-10 codes. Was it a diagnostic colonoscopy or was it a routine or surveillance screening colonoscopy? So again, I'm going to be basing it on what AI auto suggested and then also what I find in the record. And so if it is incorrect, what was suggested, I am going to use my skills, again, as a medical coder to correct those codes. That includes the ICD-10 code as well as the CPT or procedural code. And if HCPCS or modifiers are required, I will also review those as well. So that's the good part of AI because it's already kind of reviewed the record and suggesting codes, and then you as a coder will go through and review to try to, I won't say corroborate, but to confirm what AI has suggested. Now, this is where it's very important for the healthcare provider as well as the doctor. Be mindful what you input. Make sure your examinations, make sure the services that you provide are very thorough, or the documentation of those services are very thorough. Again, because AI will pick up certain terms and auto suggest a code, right? And so sometimes, and I have heard stories where people are diagnosed incorrectly or misdiagnosed based upon AI. So if you are a doctor or a healthcare provider who is basing or allowing AI to, I would say, confirm or to create a diagnosis of a patient, you want to make sure that the information that you're inputting is correct or is accurate of that patient. Because again, I've heard stories of patients being misdiagnosed. They've been placed on incorrect medication. I haven't heard any, well, some were, I did hear where a patient received a procedure that was not accurate. And again, this was all based on misdiagnosis by AI. And again, AI, like I said, AI is a data-driven algorithm, right? So it's going to base its outcome or output on what has been inputted into the computer. So again, we as humans, we're the one that are inputting the information, and AI is just giving the output or the results of the information. that was placed in the system by humans. So again, so doctors, healthcare clinicians, providers, if you are inputting the incorrect information into the system and AI is giving incorrect outputs, and if the coder doesn't catch it, then it's really the entire cycle. You're going to misdiagnose a patient. It's going to be mistreatment or incorrect treatment based on that misdiagnosis. So it is imperative from the beginning that whomever is putting or inputting that data into the system, again, in our case, healthcare, the provider, you want to make sure that you're inputting the accurate and correct information into the system so that the output is correct. And if it's not correct, that's where the coder comes in to evaluate the information in the medical record and to confirm whether the diagnosis or procedures or treatment is accurate. So it's very important. So again, AI is data driven. It's a data driven tool, and that data is based on the input that was input by humans, and then the output is the results of AI. In the case of, I would say, the algorithm. So again, I can't remember the term, but some of the data, again, we definitely know it's demographics, ages, ethnicity. So again, if let's say you didn't put the ethnicity of the patient in there, but you have the age and you have everything else, and you have certain things you saying because this is because of the age of the patient or the gender of the patient, the likelihood of this patient having this diagnosis is probably the diagnosis. And this is inaccurate because, again, we're not taking into consideration family history. We're not taking into consideration perhaps there was prior treatment or no treatment at all. And then if we're looking at it from a physical location, like where they're residing, and we don't know if that patient just moved to that location or they left the location or what have you. So there's so many factors to the data that AI is reviewing to come up with the diagnosis. Again, that's why I stress the importance of when we're inputting this information into these computer systems that we want to make sure that we're up to date, we're accurate. And then if the doctor is not accurate, again, the coders, because you have inpatient coders, you have health information management professionals who are reviewing this documentation to ensure it is accurate, right? And then it's up to us to correct it before it goes out to the payer. And also have the providers update that information in the medical record, especially if it has to do with the treatment. If the treatment is based on that diagnosis, we want to make sure it's correct because we want to ensure that the patient is receiving the appropriate and the correct treatment for their diagnosis. So yes, those are, I guess you say, some of the pros and cons. I kind of intertwine. I didn't break it out like the pros and the cons, but I intertwine my response. So there are some good things or some pros from using AI as well as some cons from using AI. So I'll summarize again. AI is data driven. It is based on the data that is input into the system, and it only feeds out the outcome of the data that was placed in the system. So that data that is input into the system is human. The data is placed in there by humans. So yeah, so here we go. There you go. So we as humans have to be mindful of what we're doing, what we're inputting, and that's also, I would say, this is just my opinion, that the reason why AI is probably created in healthcare is because there may have been some errors, human errors, right? So we have to make sure that we're improving. We're being careful when it comes to again, that data that is being input when we're diagnosing patients and we're selecting the codes, because again, it's going to be based. The reason why AI is in healthcare or in any industry is because of it's trying human error, right? We've made so many errors, and and they're looking at it like, okay, the money is costing lots and lots of money, but AI is supposed to be so accurate that it's going to help save money, right, and to reduce errors. So that's my opinion of AI. That's what I've learned. Um, will it take our jobs? I don't foresee it taking our jobs. Again, that's medical coding professionals. I don't foresee it taking our jobs. I see it as a complement to help us. One, with productivity, because productivity is like the end thing now. We want to have high producing or produce more claims or encounters or whatever. So with the speed of the computers or the AI, you can generate more encounters, you can generate more claims, right? So, but as a coder, it's our job to ensure that the claims that they're producing is accurate. So I don't foresee it taking our jobs. I think that was, I answered the question. Where did I get my AI training, and how do I foresee AI in the medical coding industry? So for those of you who are on the job, looking for a job in medical coding, and you were concerned about whether or not AI is going to take over, I think I answered your question as in it's there to complement medical coding. I don't see medical coders going anywhere. I do see their roles evolving. Again, like I said, for those, you're just a coder, but you're eventually going to transition to an auditor. Is it a easy process of evolving? No evolution or transition is easy. That's with anything, not just with medical coding. That's with any industry, and it doesn't have anything to do with industry as well. Just anytime you're trying to evolve or transition to something better, or to your authentic self, or whatever the case may be, you're going to experience some turbulence. You're going to experience some turbulence. But on the other side of that turbulence, you're in a better position. You learn more. So yeah. But as far as pivoting, because I did create a post sharing the different roles that I held as a medical coding professional, and through those roles, again, it was pivoting. So and I was there when medical coding, I would say, it was born, right? I was there when we were in ICD-9, and we went from ICD-9 to ICD-10. And it took us almost, I would say, I could be wrong, maybe 4 to 5 years to transition from ICD-9 to ICD-10. And it may have been longer. I was there when we went from providing quality coding to it transferring, or quantity took precedent, excuse me. It's still quality. That's why auditing, because the quantity is increasing, and you want to make sure we're providing quality services, or the provider is providing quality services, and we want to represent that with our medical coding. So as you can see, and I'll go back, as each transition occurred in healthcare or in medical coding, my roles also change. So don't be afraid of the transition or the evolution or AI as it relates to the medical coding industry. And for those of you who just want to, or feel, that they only can do coding, like just straight coding, there are plenty of roles, plenty of opportunities to use your coding skills. Again, you don't have to do day-to-day coding. You can do other things with your coding credential. Again, that was the purpose of me sharing the different roles I held, is to show that there's opportunities outside of just day-to-day coding that you can position yourself for. You may have skills from another career path or another industry that will complement or bode well in the medical coding industry or whatever the role that you're applying for. Again, it doesn't have to be day-to-day coding. It can simply be anything. Like I've worked in education, I've worked in testing, I've worked in legal. So there's different roles that you can take with your medical coding, and you can work in AI. I've had a student, their role was in AI, right? And so there's different roles, different positions you can apply for. Again, you don't have to stick to the day-to-day coding. You don't have to stick into a healthcare organization. Do you know how many hands are in healthcare? There are so many brands that you wouldn't even think that aren't healthcare related, that currently have their hand in healthcare, right? In the healthcare cookie jar. Places you wouldn't think of going for healthcare or have healthcare opportunities that can use the medical coding expertise. Again, like no one would have thought that going into legal would or law would have an impact on healthcare, but it does. And lawyers need medical coders because medical coders look at charts from day to day. So lawyers don't look at charts from day to day. So your expertise could actually help a case in a law case, right? Because you can read the chart. That part. Brands such, I would say, as Walmart. I was strolling through my Walmart app, and I noticed that they have a career page where they have roles for healthcare. For example, like optometrists, pharmacists, payer contract. Hey, that's good for a coder because guess what? Especially for those who are in billing, you have payer or billing information because you work with payers, right? You understand the process when it comes to payers and billing in healthcare. Again, there are other brands and other corporations and other entities that are involved in healthcare, especially with technology on the rise or is here. So I would recommend that you look outside of just the healthcare entity. And if you're in the healthcare entity, or maybe sometimes you just need to get your foot in the door and work your way up, right? So for example, if you come in as I would say, an assistant or front desk or whatever the case may be, and you have an interest in medical coding, at least get your foot in the door and let them allow the healthcare entities to hire from within and work your way through that. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. So you just have to be creative and use critical thinking and be smart, and use your medical coding experience, your medical coding skills or training, as well as your other skills and training that you receive from other career industries and employers, and create and be creative. And if there is a role that you feel that will suit you that you don't see out there, it is okay for you to create that for yourself. It is okay for you to create that for yourself. And I say this, just because you don't see it, you may be the person that needs to create it so that others can see the opportunity in that. You may be the first person to do it. Let me tell you, I've been on TikTok and I've seen so many coders who are incorporating their other hobbies or likes into their medical coding content. They talk about coding. I saw one, and shout out to the knit coder. Yes, I see you. This person is a coder, but they also love knitting. So I perhaps they are knitting while they're sharing with you tips on how to code, how to pass the coding certification exam, or how to code a specific scenario. But they incorporated their love for knitting. Travel, okay? Coders travel, right? You don't. And let me pause right here. If you are single, when I say single, you don't have kids, and perhaps you do have children. you're not married and you're looking to relocate, right? And if there's an opportunity in an area that you don't mind relocating to, relocate. Relocate. You don't have to stay where you are. You can relocate. There are travel coaches just as there are travel nurses. Relocate. You may be the first, and honestly, you're not the first, but in your mind, you may be the first to relocate. Again, there's so many opportunities with coding, right, that you can take. Don't be afraid to incorporate some of your personal, I would say, hobbies or what have you into coding, which is going to make it more, is going to make the transition easier for you, comfortable for you, and you're still getting paid to code. And again, like I said, the lady who used her hobby of knitting, right, to kind of incorporate into her medical coding. She works from home. She has a job, but she enjoys knitting, right? And there's so many other coders I see who are incorporating I would say their human side or their other side into medical coding, right? I'm one of them. I love travel. I love a lot of things. I love to read books outside of the coding books. And so I incorporate that into my day-to-day coding content if you're on social media. But what you will find, what I have found, that when I incorporate my life into my medical coding, other brands for those say, for example, the knitting, she may be able to work with a brand that involves knitting, right? Or in my case, I may or maybe work with a brand, and I am working with the brand Audible, because I enjoy reading books and I enjoy listening to books via Audible. So I'm able to incorporate that into medical coding, again, because that's me taking a coding break. So you have to be creative and you have to use critical thinking to create a role that is feasible for you and will also align with your income. So that's all that I have for this episode of the Coding Break. So again, if you have other questions that you would like for me to answer, or just information that you want me to talk about or discuss with you on the Coding Break, feel free to, again, DM me on the social platforms. I am on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of those. Or you can, email me information or topics you would love to discuss in more detail. Yeah, so that'll be it until the next Coding Break. So as we're closing out the year of 2025, I just encourage you to take a coding break, whether you're traveling or you just need to step away from the computer, regroup, and prepare for 2026. So until next time, code on.